Welcome to Conservation Sportsman News. I'm Kevin Osland, your host. The Minnesota DNR has confirmed the first case of chronic wasting disease in a wild Minnesota deer. This was an infected doe shot by an archer last November near the town of Pine Island in southeastern Minnesota, just north of Rochester. The DNR has already taken steps to determine if the disease has spread by initiating a special harvest in the area to create a test sample of 900 deer within a 10-mile area of where the initial case was found. This harvest is already underway and is being conducted with cooperating landowners in the area. It is estimated a total population of about 7,000 deer are within the test region. From these tests, the DNR will determine what further measures may need to be taken to protect Minnesota's deer herd. The DNR Commissioner's Office recently announced that new people have been hired for key positions within the DNR. These include Dennis Fredrickson, who will serve as Regional DNR Director for the Southern Office located in New Ulm. Mr. Fredrickson had been a former state senator from this area for the past 30 years and retired in 2010. Another addition to the DNR is Chris Niskanen in the role of Communications Director. For the past 17 years, Mr. Niskanen was outdoors writer for the Pioneer Press. He is an active hunter and fisherman who recently authored a book on Minnesota's park system. Last but not least is the addition of former State Senator Bob Lessard to the DNR staff in the role of Special Assistant to the Commissioner for Community Outreach. Mr. Lessard served 26 years as a Minnesota State Senator and authored many bills related to fishing and hunting. In his role of community outreach, he will travel the state and seek input from hunters, anglers, and conservation groups on how the DNR can better serve the public. He will be reporting his findings directly to Commissioner Landwehr. Surveys are being tabulated by the DNR from hunters who participated in Minnesota's first sandhill crane hunt last fall. Approximately 2,000 hunters received permits to hunt cranes, and initial survey results indicate about 750 cranes actually were harvested. There had been some controversy over this season since some conservation groups said public notice on the merits of a crane hunt had not been adequately publicized for comment by Minnesotans. All indications are full speed ahead for Minnesota's first ever walk-in access program for hunters. The Federal Services Administration has indicated that $2.7 million over the next 3 years should be heading towards Minnesota's effort for increasing public access to hunt on private land. This program is based on voluntary participation by landowners in exchange for leasing arrangements with the state. Minnesota now joins 26 other states that have walk-in access programs. Minnesota is one of 17 states that received walk-in funds from the 2008 Farm Bill under the Open Fields Initiative. Sign-ups will begin over this upcoming summer, and open hunting on these lands begin in September. Next is our Movers and Shakers segment, but first is a message from our sponsor. Come join us at the 29th Anniversary Minnesota Deer Classic, March 11th, 12th, and 13th at the Coliseum Building at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Free parking for the public. Times are Friday 3 to 8, Saturday 9 to 6, Sunday 10 to 4. Come join our celebrity guests Ralph and Vicky Ciancerulo of the Archer's Choice TV show. This is a sportsman's bonanza with over 200 exhibit booths. Also trophy display and competition. Minnesota Deer Classic, March 11th, 12th, and 13th, Minnesota State Fairgrounds. This is our section called Movers and Shakers, where we discuss with Minnesotans who are taking active roles in making Minnesota a better place to hunt and fish. And in this segment, I have two guests. To my right is Ron Schara, a columnist and TV producer. And to my far right would be Mark Johnson, Executive Director of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
A new group has formed last fall called Hunting Works for Minnesota. Ron, you're chairman, and also you're a chairman, Mark, of this group. Please explain why you became involved with this group and what the purpose of Hunting Works for Minnesota is.
Well, I became involved because being a longtime hunter, I'm very aware of how hunters have always talked about their conservation record, how they contribute to wildlife habitat and all kinds of things. But what hasn't been talked about much is how hunting and hunters contribute to the economy. And that's what this is all about, is to at least bring to the public's knowledge that when we're deer hunting, pheasant hunting, duck hunting, grouse hunting, whatever it is, We're staying in motels, we're buying gasoline, we're going into restaurants, etc. And that hunting does have an economic impact on Minnesota.
Okay, so the focus is on the economics of it, and then you're bringing that to the public awareness. Whose awareness are you really bringing this to?
Well, we're bringing it to the public, but also part of the Hunting Works for Minnesota program is soliciting businesses who agree with you, who understand when their motels are full, or their restaurants, or their gasoline stations, or whatever, that they recognize that some of their clients, some of their customers are hunters. And so they're merely getting on board and saying, yes, hunting works for Minnesota and we can prove it.
And then all pooling your resources together, get the word out. Mark, please share with us a little bit about your organization, the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, and why you decided to get involved in Hunting Works for Minnesota.
Sure. Minnesota Deer Hunters Association is an old organization in Minnesota. We were actually formed back in the 70s and founded by, originally made into a 501c3 nonprofit in 1980. We have 67 chapters across the state, and MDHA is an organization that works for tomorrow's wildlife and hunters today, through education, habitat hunting, and legislation. Hunting Works for Minnesota fit in perfectly with us because we're really in the ballgame of providing hunters, or recruiting and retaining hunters, making sure that we have the wildlife for them to pursue, and making sure that we also have the places for them to pursue them. So that three-legged stool, and those three legs really create that economy that Ron was talking about. The economy that kicks into Minnesota, what is it, nearly $700 million a year. And actually, deer hunters are a huge portion of that.
Now also, as we go more into the economics of hunting, I think there's an interesting graphic that will pop up shortly here. But Minnesota annually has about 597,000 hunters. And I was amazed, absolutely amazed, that the average hunter puts $783 into the economy, counting their gear, their hunting, their licenses. It is absolutely amazing. What do you think from a deer hunter's perspective? Is that conservative?
Yeah, unfortunately for deer hunters, that's conservative. It is. They estimate that deer hunters actually spend $1,000 or more average each year. And I really doubted that for a long time until I started keeping track of my own expenses. I hope my wife isn't watching this. But it really comes in, and that's, like Ron said, your motels, your gas, your license. But what about the gun you buy and the clothes you buy and all the other things that go along with it?
Doesn't take long before it adds up.
Right.
Now, one thing that I've noticed too, until deer hunting starts, towns are desolate. But once the opening season starts, tell us the impact on the local communities and the local businesses.
There is arguably no other time of the year other than Christmas that brings as many families together as deer hunting. And that's really what it is. You have an exodus from the metro area with people going back outstate to their homes, to their cabins, to their friends' places where they can hunt, to their hunting camps, so to speak. And every one of those people is spending not just hundreds of dollars, but many hundreds of dollars to go and enjoy this family pastime, this tradition.
And the dollars, again, brought to the local community. Another figure here that we're going to have a graphic shortly. Hunting provides 14,400 jobs, $365 million in wages, and $63 million in extra taxes collected over the course of a year. The figures are just amazing. They boggle me.
Well, they boggle me too. They're also, I think for any kind of layperson, including myself, they're really hard to grasp. What I like to look at more closely is like the motel operator that I talked to who said, you know what, the only time my motel is full, the only time I put up a no vacancy sign is during the pheasant opener, and you go that way. The other part of it is hunting is just simply important to a lot of Minnesotans for the quality of their life. It's what they do. Some people golf, some people hunt. And that's wonderful. But as you know, there are some people who would say, we don't need hunting anymore. And this is just another argument saying, what do you mean we don't? We need that economy going.
Now the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Survey, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service produces a survey periodically, and where they do an economic analysis. And in Minnesota, The last survey they conducted, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said that $494 million each year, and that's on the conservative side, comes to Minnesota's economy. We're talking nearly $500 million. $500 million. For someone to get involved in Hunting Works for Minnesota, how do they learn more? How does a retailer, how does an individual, a business, or whatever, how would they go about hearing from you or wanting to get involved?
One of the first things is going to the website that you've got up, the Hunting Works for Minnesota, or huntingworksformn.com. And that you can find all kinds of really good information there. I'm sure that otherwise, if you'd like to get a hold of Ron or myself at Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, we can definitely help to shift you to that information.
The other part of it is this costs a business nothing to get involved with this. It merely is asking a business to recognize the fact that that a lot of their customers are hunters, that they come into the store or the motel or the restaurant because they are hunting, and they can sign up free. It's sort of a public gesture saying, yes, we recognize the value, economic value of hunting in Minnesota.
And then my last question is this. When the legislators seem to ignore these economic data and they come up with legislation, for now there's new legislation out where they actually want to ban wildlife management areas, new acquisitions. What do you think Hunting Works for Minnesota could maybe do in response to that from the economic side or whatever with our legislature?
I don't know if it's so much what Hunting Works for Minnesota can do, although it's definitely on the radar screen for all of the constituents and all the members. But it's what the individual members can do. You know, when you look at the economic impact of hunting in Minnesota, we need those places to hunt. That's part of that three-legged stool. Or we don't have a viable industry, and this is an industry in Minnesota's economy.
Well, hopefully with this group we can stress the economic impact and we can offset these kind of knee-jerk reactions of the legislature to throw out the baby with the bathwater sort of approach to legislation. So thank you so much, gentlemen. There again, if you would like to see more about Hunting Works for Minnesota, go to our website, huntingworksformn.com. Thank you. Minnesota Outdoor Heritage Alliance is proud to be a sponsor of Conservation Sportsman News. Our mission is to protect and guarantee the right to pursue the time-honored traditions of hunting and fishing and related activities for every Minnesota citizen in perpetuity through legislative action, public awareness, and education. MOHA is proud to have successfully promoted and passed 2 constitutional amendments, the Right to Hunt and Fish and also the Clean Water, Land, and Legacy Amendment that guarantees funding over the next 25 years for our fish, game, wildlife, and habitat resources. Welcome to our segment called Legislative Topics. This is when we bring legislators from the state capitol to discuss hunting, fishing, and conservation issues. Today I have 2 gentlemen from the Capitol to come over, and this is Senator Bill Ingebrigtsen, and he's chair of the Senate Environment and Natural Resources Committee. And then we also have Representative Denny McNamara, his chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee in the House. So welcome, gentlemen, and we appreciate you sharing your ideas with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
First of all, Senator Ingebrigtsen, where are you from, and how long have you served in the legislature, and what are your hobbies, your outdoor hobbies?
Well, I represent District 11, which is the west central Minnesota counties of Todd, Douglas, Grant, and Stevens County. And in my previous life, I was a 35-year veteran in law enforcement locally there in Douglas County, the last 16 years as sheriff. And so that's what I come with. I come with that kind of a background. Of course, I come from a background of hunting and fishing heritage in my family, and so I've been on the Environmental Natural Resource Committee for the past 4 years, and now, of course, I'm chairing that committee. So. And I'm also sitting on the Lessard Sam's Outdoor Heritage Council, which we're going to be talking about today, so I can bring a little insight to that.
Well, thank you. And Representative McNamara, what's your background, where are you from, and your hobbies?
Well, Kevin, I live in Hastings. It's just southeast of the metropolitan area, just about 20 miles from the Capitol. Grew up there in Hastings. I spent a career in landscape contracting, tree business, and I've always had an interest in the outdoors, real active hunting, fishing, camping, all the outdoor things. Our family's real active in that. I'm serving my 5th term in the legislature, so it's my 9th year. First time chairing a committee, so I'm excited with Senator Ingebrigtsen to be doing the environment, natural resources arena, and really look forward to doing what's right on behalf of sportsmen and women in the great state of Minnesota.
Oh, thank you. Now, Senator Ingebrigtsen, you had mentioned earlier that you serve on the Lessard-Sams Outdoor Heritage Committee, or Council. And would you share how many years you've been on that? And then what's your feeling about how that council has worked, since it's a mix of legislators and citizens?
We're bringing forth this year our third appropriation. We do a yearly appropriation in the Lessard-Sams. That was a committee that was put together by with bipartisan effort between the former chair and myself last year, already 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and we find it working very well with the experts. I call them experts that are actually the citizen members on these committees. We have, of course, 2 senators, one from each party and one from each party on the House. And we've kind of taken the role as an advisor, if you will. We've let the citizens so far be the chair, vice chair, and we just felt it was best to be open and transparent by having the citizens participate a whole bunch in that committee, and it's worked out very well, I think. And our first year, when we brought the bill forward on the Senate floor, it actually left the Senate 467-0 and went to the House. And there was a a couple tweaks here and there on the bill over there, but it was very well received over there. And I think the past 2 years has been very good too. So.
Now, my understanding is that bill has already gone to your committee, and would you tell us the status of that bill, and what was the total dollar amount roughly of the project?
That's correct. I sponsored that bill. That's about an $86 million expenditure, and there was only one amendment that was offered, and that was regards to the seed growing of the ecosystems. We did a little work on that, and it's something that's been ongoing. There's been discussion over the years on these these restoration projects of trying to get the seed to grow within a reasonable mile, if you will, of the projects. And some legislation needed to be changed there, and that's what that took care of.
And then Representative McNamara, now you have 2 committees. One is a legacy committee that I guess hears the projects first, and then it'll be going to your committee. Could you just share a little bit briefly what the legacy committee is about? Why do they have that?
Well, Kevin, in the House we have a division of our committee, of the Environment, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee. We have the Legacy Division, which is chaired by Representative Erdahl, and we will hear in that division the different parts of the legacy funding, including the outdoor heritage part, which, like Senator Ingebrigtsen, I'm the chief author of the Lessard-Sams Outdoor Heritage Council's funding request. And so we'll bring that forward in our division, in the legacy division of the House, hear it there. If it's modified some, it'll be modified in that committee potentially. Then it'll be moved on to the Environment, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee that I chair, where it will then be heard and move forward from there. So a little bit different process than Senator Ingebrigtsen, but quite similar, really. And I think that part of the legacy money, the Lessard-Sams, has worked really well. As the senator said, there's been very little change in that bill when it comes forward. So it's a good process. I'm hopeful that maybe the other parts of the legacy funding, the clean water, parks and trails, and potentially arts, will learn from the model that Lessard-Sams has laid out. And maybe we can do a little better with those parts of that money too.
A major concern recently is some legislation that's recently been introduced. And actually, it sounds like it almost would be a ban on future acquisition of wildlife management areas. I know there's some other aspects of this bill, but I'd like your perspective, Representative McNamara, what you think about this bill and no net gain, and where do you think it's going? Are we not going to purchase any more wildlife management areas?
Well, Kevin, I certainly don't support stopping buying land. No, we need to buy good land when we get opportunities in specific spots. We're going to continue to do that. There is a House file. We're going to hear it tomorrow morning. It says no net gain of land. We actually have another House file that says no net loss of hunting land. We're going to hear them both and have a good discussion. I think we're going to look at a lot of land that the DNR owns is in northern Minnesota, and maybe it could be managed better. But I've been a strong proponent of the state buying land in the right spots, and I hope we continue to do that.
And Senator Ingebrigtsen, do you agree that we need a balance, or is it all or nothing?
I think we need a balance, and I think where the big concern comes in is managing the properties that the DNR has. And but we got to be careful. We got to be careful for willing land sellers, willing land that folks that want to let their land go, and we strategically buy these properties when we do acquisition, is in corridors that are actually running with WMAs and making sure that we have corridors and not just hodgepodge acquisitions. But there is a concern out there, and I think Representative McNamara is right. We should hear the bill, air it out good, and before we move forward.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Our next segment will be on agency partners, but for now, let's hear a message from our sponsor. Come join us at the 29th Anniversary Minnesota Deer Classic, March 11th, 12th, and 13th at the Coliseum Building at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. Free parking for the public. Times are Friday 3 to 8, Saturday 9 to 6, Sunday 10 to 4. Come join our celebrity guests Ralph and Vicky Ciancerulo of the Archer's Choice TV show. This is a sportsman's bonanza with over 200 exhibit booths. Also trophy display and competition. Minnesota Deer Classic, March 11th, 12th, and 13th, Minnesota State Fairgrounds. This is our agency partners section of the program, and I'm pleased to introduce two of our agency employees here at the state level, and this is Bill Penning with the Minnesota DNR Farmland Wildlife Division, and then we also have Kevin Lyons with the Board of Water and Soil Resources, affectionately known as Bowser, so I'll refer to Bowser throughout this segment. First of all, Bill, sportsmen are delighted we now have a walk-in access program, and waiting for many years. We were kind of looking longingly to South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, other states that have had it. Why don't you share a little bit about what this walk-in access program is about, why it came about now?
Well, a walk-in program is where the state, in this case, buys access rights to private land so that hunters have an opportunity to go hunt on that private land. The advantage for hunters is that they don't have to chase the landowner down in order to get permission, so it makes it a little bit easier to find some additional land to hunt on. The advantage for landowners is that they get paid for the access and they don't have people knocking on their door all the time. Walk-in access is something that we've been discussing in Minnesota for 20-25 years. It's very popular and successful in both of the Dakotas and many other states, and it's been kind of off and on again in Minnesota. But as one of the provisions of the 2008 federal farm bill, there was a program in there called voluntary public access. There was $50 million that was available in that program to fund states for walk-in access programs. The DNR applied for a grant, and we were successful to get enough money for 3 years to start a pilot program to test how this would work in Minnesota.
Now, what is the role of the DNR versus the Board of Water and Soil Resources?
The DNR is the overall grant administrator for this, and we're also going to handle sort of the public interface with it. We're going to be responsible for dealing with hunters, doing some of the outreach, putting together maps and other resources to help out hunters. Bowser is going to do the landowner portion of it. They're going to administer the individual landowner agreements, work with the soil and water conservation districts to do the implementation. So it's a good partnership. We can share it back and forth.
So really, the big instigator of this was that the Farm Bill money came up. It was available to apply for. You applied for it, and we've gotten a significant sum of money. What was the dollar amount again?
$2.7 million.
And that is over how many years?
That's for 3 years.
3 years,
yep.
Okay.
And that, which is the life of the program. Okay. The money expires after 3 years.
Now, where will these acres be? In what part of the state? How many counties? Whatever.
We're looking at 21 counties in the southwestern corner of the state. We think that there's a lot of opportunity there for private land that already has habitat on it. We're targeting land that's already enrolled into a conservation program such as CRP or WRP RIM programs that pay landowners to create and preserve habitat, but they don't necessarily allow public access, and so now we're trying to add an incentive to allow the public access component of it in those counties.
And there again, the map behind us basically describes those areas in green along the Minnesota River Valley. Well, actually, that's southwestern corner of Minnesota along
Right.
the Minnesota River, a little bit up to some of those
Correct.
counties. What is the implementation schedule as far as number of acres per year, say for 2012, 13, 14?
We're looking at having 10,000 acres on the ground for this fall's hunting season. That would be, so that's fall of 2011. For 2012, we're looking at a total of 25,000 acres on the ground, and then the following and final year, a total of 50,000 acres on the ground.
And then they will expire at the end of, what, 2013? Or do they go into 14 an extra year, or how does that
Well,
work?
they'll actually follow through until the end of the contract period, which would be the end of the turkey season. So the 2,013 acres would go into towards the end of May of 14.
Okay. When again will the lands be available for use? What month, or what's kind of the target dates for their where you can access those?
Yeah, what we were looking at allowing is hunting for all species whenever hunting is open. So essentially they will become available for hunter access starting on September 1st, which is the opening of the small game season, and then running through February 28th, which is the close of the small game season. That also encompasses the pheasant season, the waterfowl season, deer season, all of that. They would then open again with the beginning of the turkey season in April, and then go through the end of the turkey season in May.
Okay, now if we could move over to Bowser. What's Bowser's role in this? What are you going to be doing, and how are you going to do it?
Sure. Well, Bowser's role is we're going to be working with our landowners through our local soil and water conservation districts to market the program to landowners that have eligible lands to enroll. And so we have what we call our Farm Bill Assistance Partnership that we established back in 2002 to accelerate the conservation provisions in the federal Farm Bill. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to continue that with a walk-on, walk-in program that's going to be new to Minnesota. So it's additional acres that are going to be available for our hunters and sports people to recreate on. So we think it's a great complement to many of our existing conservation programs, particularly our Rim Reserve, our Crep Acres. Those are perpetual conservation easements that we've taken in the past that are there permanently, but now we can add an additive walk-in program on top of that. For those landowners, it's a voluntary program, of course, but for those landowners seeking additional revenue, here's a way to provide some additional revenue to themselves, as well as providing that important recreational opportunity. So the 21 counties we'll be focusing in. We have a lot of acres already established in those areas, so we'll be easy marketing from the standpoint we know who's already enrolled in our program, so we'll be, you know, direct mail type approach to those folks, along with news articles and local papers and radio that will get the news out to landowners, because it is a new program, and so we want to make sure that landowners are aware of it and that there is going to be some added financial incentive for them. So
it sounds like a partnership with the DNR and Bowser to have a program available for the public, and we'll be enjoying these lands this coming fall.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Agency Partners, and we wish you well in the program. We're looking forward to our hunting lands.
Thank you.
And now here's Habitat and Conservation calendar coming up with our different conservation groups. Here is the conservation calendar provided by Outdoor News. Also, see their website at outdoornews.com. Thank you for joining us today. And now it's up to you. By going to our website, www.conservationsportsman.org, you can let your legislators know how you feel about the issues we've discussed today. And also you'll be updated on the latest breaking news dealing with conservation and sportsman issues.